Honour. Hey, you awake? Good. My name is Marco Meady, and if all goes to plan, you're going to hear a few stories from me over the next few nights, if you make it that far. So, let's get started with this story about my dear friend, David Chomsky. You know David, the one you shot in the head a few weeks back. Well, let's get started. Frederick Gibbs never was a nice kid. His mum wouldn't have liked that, but for better or for worse, he never got to know her. It's not that he didn't try his best at what he did. It was the way he was doing what he did that unmade his potential as a so-called productive member of society. He had lost close friends to the chaotic evil that can burn in a man's heart, or any creature capable of evil for that matter. He'd been betrayed, and he had betrayed people. But despite, or even because of that, he swore never to kill a person, at least not in a direct manner, which miraculously have worked out for him so far, but it didn't keep him from getting involved in the criminal life that he made out to be his destiny in this confusing world. The year was 1997, and the rain was smashing relentlessly against the cheap glass windows of a bar in one of the less expensive parts of town that was even more downtrodden than the people walking its streets. A few cars, like Frederick's, stood in front of the bar, a red neon light letting you know it was open 24 hours a day, slowly dying each day, and today it looked like it would finally give out. Not that Frederick would notice that, as drunk as he was. This was his base of operations, his little corner of the world, where he, together with some of his goons and a few lost souls, resided most of his time in. Normally, he would just sit there in a small corner with his girlfriend, giving stupid commands to less strong-minded guests in this fine establishment in order to impress her. But today he seemed tired and kept mostly to himself, only talking with a young woman nobody else knew there. Not that he wouldn't still act tough, but his partners in crime knew him well enough to notice something was off. They also didn't score any big break-ins or drug trades for some months, which didn't help improve the mood in the dimly lit bar. Besides, rumours circulated that Carlos had laid his eyes on Frederick's position as the leader of this fine band of gentlemen. These rumours were false, spread by the one who really wanted to take over. So eyes rested on the two, the girl and Gibbs, talking too quiet to hear them over the loud bass heavy music. They chatted, he drank a beer, they kissed, her hair covering her face nearly the whole time while they were at it. Before she stood up to leave, she gave him one last kiss, threw on her jacket, and looked into the room like she'd now just noticed there were other people around. Not that she looked embarrassed or anything, it was more like they were just too insignificant to play any part in her reality before. She wasn't seen there since. Frederick stayed for a while, and then also left, drunkenly muttering something about getting rest, and drove away in his car. It's a few days later. Gibbs had not been seen by associates for a little while, preferring to drink with himself since that night. He was preparing himself for what he had to do soon. The girl had given him a tip on a very big score, a big but nasty score. He knew it wasn't right. Climbing over the fence, he ripped his jeans, and his gun fell out of his pocket. He paused for a second before he picked it up, together with the shovel he had thrown over the fence beforehand. It didn't take him long to find the grave. The white tombstone was way simpler than he thought it would be, but still had some fresh flowers next to it. Frederick Gibbs ignored that and started digging. It took longer than expected, pausing every now and then to listen into the dark, filled with paranoia and stinking of self-loathing. And then it was done. There lay the skeleton of a man, buried in a beautiful white coffin, with gold handles and magnificent inlays, pure gold inlays. But all of that was nothing compared to the chain hanging around the dead man's neck. A huge chain, filled with diamonds, glittering and shining like stars in this dark, dark night. His hands were shaking a bit, but he managed to remove the chain from the corpse without damaging the skeleton. He knew at this point it didn't matter, but he couldn't bring himself to just rip it off the neck. Also, this could damage his price. He looked up into the sky and closed his eyes, and then he closed the coffin lid. A middle-aged black man, with long dreads nearly covering his whole face, put the phone down. It had woken him up. A girl had called. He didn't know her voice. But if what she told him was a lie, he would find her. But for now, it was time to get dressed. He put on a black hoodie, which he held very dear, and also his washed-up jeans, before opening his closet. His eyes became soft for a second. A sharp exhale. The kind of exhale that shows you've been through some situations people try to run away from their whole lives, and yet you did survive. For a price. He picked up the phone again. Frederick Gibbs had spent nearly all his money in the last few nights, drifting from hotel to hotel and from strip club to strip club. He'd broken up with his girlfriend and didn't have a care in the world left, except for the nightmares. 2 beautiful women did coke and other unhealthy things with him for 9 hours straight. Mostly, though, it was him who did the coke. He rested on the bed, vision blurry, feeling like $1 million. The big diamond chain next to him on the nightstand shining bright, even in the cheap lights of the motel room. He'd found a buyer who he would soon meet. He perceived something from one of the girls that might have been about buying some new drinks down the street at a liquor store, and he just hummed in approval, closing his eyes for a moment, hearing how the two went outside, giggling and chatting. A man in a black hoodie entered the room, looking over his shoulder before doing so. The door had been left open. He raises his gun. Frederick hears the click of a safety. His eyes suddenly open in terror. No, we can talk about it. Blood drops covered the shining chain now. Careful and with gentle hands, the man in the black hoodie picked up the chain, went into the bathroom, washing away the blood. With an expressionless face, he looked into the mirror. It had cracks in it, but he still recognised himself. He smiled. The drive wasn't that long. He knew where to go. He brings flowers every once in a while, just like the 2 people waiting here for him. It was late, maybe 2 a.m. They embraced each other, like only very good friends do. The other 2 had already dug up the grave anew, and the coffin was opened. With soft eyes and the utmost care, the man in the black hoodie reattached the chain around the neck of his long-dead best friend. All 3 looked at each other, then buried him again. They smoked a cigarette together before embracing each other again and saying their goodbyes. Everyone gets in their cars and they part ways. The man in the black hoodie knew he would have to leave town. It began to rain again. "That was beautiful," says a calm female voice from the back seats. He knew this voice now. In the rearview mirror, the man saw the girl, smiling.